We are going to determine right now definitively which board games should stand the test of time and which ones should fade away and burn into obscurity. This is the patented room and board deathmatch TM. That's right. The prompt for this tournament was simple. Which games do you think will stand the test of time? Which games are going to still be around in 100 years from now and still be actively played, if any? That was the prompt. It seems like November is the time to get nostalgic because last year in 2022, we did a Cult of the Old deathmatch. And so for this one, the only rule was that, well, I tried to not include repeats from the Cult of the Old. So we didn't see another Crokinole Castles of Burgundy showdown. But just the test of time. A lot of these games are going to skew, well, these games, speaking of these games, look at them right now. A lot of these games are going to skew a little bit older and not in the current era, but there wasn't a firm cap on it. There wasn't a firm has to be out for a certain number of years, only that the design, something about the design, when people submitted them, made them feel like the games could stand the test of time. Sorry, the test of time. And so that's what we're going to be deciding today. So take a guess, take a gander, take a look at the games that are on offer and make your predictions now in the comments down below. And while you're down there, pinch that little like button because, you know, I crave attention and affection. And enjoy. This video should hopefully serve as a way to recount some older games, maybe some that you know of, maybe some that you don't, and just get a sense of them. The first matchup that we're going to look at is going to be Dark Moon versus Nexus Ops. So Dark Moon originally started out as a game called Battlestar Galactica Express, and it's fairly simple. Some of you are going to be good. There's a couple who are going to be secretly evil, but you're all contributing dice that you roll to fix things on the ship. However, the best, most efficient use of this is me saying, hey, I'm going to give up my turns that you over there can take 2 turns because I trust you. You're not a Cylon. This was a print and play fan creation, I think, and then it got picked up by a publisher, Stronghold Games actually, and put into practice. Came out in 2011 and is still kicking around today as a lighter version of Battlestar Galactica. Nexus Op is sort of an Ameritrash style game, but with glow-in-the-dark minis. Being published in 2005, still sitting at 603 on BoardGameGeek. Units are composed of various alien races and have stats similar to those used in Axis and Allies. And the combat is also similar with, if you lose, you generally get a benefit that you can use in a later game. Game ends when somebody gets a certain number of victory points over this wide-spanning grid. As you can see, people are populating it and rushing towards the center to try to get special stuff. There's nice conversation in the Discord, where all the voting takes place, about the benefits of Battlestar Galactica, how it being a light, quick social deduction game. But speaking of quick, Nexus Ops, also, you'd expect a game like this to take hours and hours, but it plays very quickly in that 90-minute play time, being pretty decently accurate, which is not something that you can say about a lot of dudes on a map game. It's sort of King of the Hill style, where you want to rush the center and hold it for as long as you can, getting as many points as possible. And so it was a close matchup, but I think the ease of Dark Moon, the wider availability of it, and the fact that these sorts of games are kind of out of style now, Dark Moon moves forward in an 18-12 vote. Goodbye, Nexus Ops. We never knew you and never will. Moving along to 2 new games, very new. One being published in 2003, that's Ada's Library, taking on Clue, the Great Museum Caper, a 3D art theft mystery in the classic Clue tradition. I know what you might be thinking. You're like, Clue, why is Clue on this? Oh, I'm better than Clue. Well, I don't know if you're better than Clue, the Great Museum Caper, because this game sounds incredible. It's a semi-co-op game, 1991, that was published by the Parker Brothers, a semi-co-op game. I don't think it's really a semi-co-op game. I think it's an all, one versus all. It's sort of a hidden movement game where there's a thief against the rest of the players. Basically Sniper Elite before it was Sniper Elite. The thief has to run around, steal art, and escape from an exit before being caught by the detectives. Look how sneaky that thief is being in that picture. It's incredible that something that was put out under the guise of Clue. I always love learning about these little offshoots, right? These other sort of zanier takes on the brand that actually end up being quite innovative. That's Clue, the Great Museum Caper, a sleeper hit. It's up against Ada's Library, which is a very, very simple game, plays in 20 minutes for 2 players. Every person is going to have these sort of little pawns representing their books, and you have an order in which the books have to be organized, and so you have to play cards and manipulate your own line more efficiently than your opponent to get it in the correct order for the books. I don't know how long I've been muted for. Guess what? I recorded a lot of this, and then the mic was muted, as is, you know, the it happens. So we're gonna go through it again. Well, I'm gonna go through it again. You're gonna go through it the first time. I don't know where I left off in terms of Clue versus the Great Museum Caper. However, it's offensive to me that Clue the Great Museum Caper isn't going to win this match. That's what it is. The fact that there's this sniper elite style hidden movement, quick 10-minute games, 10-minute heist that you can do, and then you can play tournament style so everybody gets a chance to play as the thief as you break in and move around and you have to catch the thief. That sounds so good. And the fact that it's associated with Clue, was designed in 1991. I feel like this is a game that is way ahead of its time, that I'm like a huge fan of, having never played it, but just having learned about it for this deathmatch. It's offensive to me. However, Ada's Library does end up moving forward on the backs of the extra votes. There was some die of chaos. Well, technically it was a tie. It was a tie 13-13 between the two, but according to deathmatch rules, whichever game gets the most extra votes would move forward in the event of a tie. The tie was broken by people's random votes. It ended up being 15-14 for Ada's Library, so it fell and it honored what would have been a predetermined conclusion already. Unfortunately for my dreams, Clue the Great Museum Caper has burned into obscurity, and I will never get a chance to play it. Although I think my neighbor actually does have a copy of this, which I didn't realize when I was stealing games from their collection as well. Moving along, we've got Codenames versus Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, which used to look like this, and now has been rebranded by Puerto Rico 1897. Although it doesn't have a re-implements buy in the Board Game Geek. Puerto Rico is still sitting at 43 overall. Now this new edition not only implementing that 2-player variant, because there was an official 2-player variant where you have one of every building, which is cool, but also taking out the overt themes of colonialism. Jason Perez from Shelf Stories has a really good series on Puerto Rico, which I highly recommend checking out. And he was actually instrumental in moving this new edition forward, which is a real shame because the first printing of this was rife with errors. It was just, Aleo just dropped the bed, ruined it completely. There was misprints on coffee tiles. They didn't have the words printed on the buildings, which makes it more annoying to get new players into playing the game. It just was apparently a really bad production print run. So I'm waiting until the second run is for sure out in stores, because I emailed Aaliyah and they never got back to me. I said, hey, how do I tell the difference between your crappy first printing and your second printing? How do I tell the difference? Because I want to get the good one. And they didn't get back to me. Anyway, Puerto Rico is a really good game. It deals with the follow mechanic, which I really like a lot. I haven't played Puerto Rico in a while. But basically, you get to choose an action that everybody gets to do, and you get the better version of that action. Ends up being really tight. You can't really play Puerto Rico when you're good at it with people who aren't good at it, because you'll just wipe the floor with them. But it's still like a pretty cool game, and it's sort of the next step after Catan, or at least it was my next step in terms of realizing and seeing the potential of board gaming, like all way back when. So kind of great that there is a new edition that was culturally consulted upon. I think that's cool. I know every time I bring up Puerto Rico, I know there's a couple people in the comments who are like, I'm Puerto Rican and I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Totally. I've never felt the theme to be anything other than moving cubes in Puerto Rico, to be honest. I have never really thought about the things that I'm doing or seen the implications that other people see, but other people see it, so I'm like, great, let's change it then, you know? Doesn't affect me either way, and I'm happy that there's actually some art in this version. And if it can make other people feel good about playing a mechanically very sound game, that's everything I could ever want, right? But it's facing up against Codenames. Codenames back in 2015 took the world by storm. Really did. Like, I don't know if there's been a party game that's been as popular as Codenames, that's hit mass market status so quickly. Codenames is, you know, we all know Codenames. I'm not going to explain it. Well, I'm going to explain it a little. You got two teams. You're trying to get your team to guess the words. That's it. The Spymaster says hot too. Can you find the two words relating to hot that win the game? Well, Chris and George aren't on there, so... Anyway, it is Codenames that does move forward in a very, very close 15-14 vote. Sorry, Puerto Rico. Even with your new addition, we still hate your guts. Moving along to Avalon versus Citadels. Both of these games, well, that was from my explanation from earlier, both of these games are fantastic. Both of these games are great, and I can recommend you buy both of them as long as they still exist and haven't erupted into flames. Avalon is my favorite social deduction game. I would recommend you get the Resistance Avalon and not the Avalon Big Box, because the Avalon Big Box is about two times the size and 2 times the price. And I generally just have fun playing base Avalon as well. But I'm also really happy that I have the big box version, which looks like this, because it gives you a few extra rolls. Some of the rolls are fun. Some of the quest, the plot cards are fun to play with. But I'm always happy with just base Avalon. You have two teams, a good and a bad. And each round, people are going to go on missions. You don't know who the good people are. The bad team knows who each other are. The good people don't know anything. And you got to put people on missions and hope that they don't fail it, because one fail means the bad team gets a point. If no fails happen, good team gets a point. 3 points and your team wins. It's just a fantastic game. Like, I love it. Everybody can be involved in the entire game, regardless of if your cover is blown or not. I think that it amplifies an awesome social deduction game, as well as everyone always has the agency to do what they want. There's no taking away the agency from the players and say, oh, you just can't vote like that, unless you throw in a specific character that you want to do that. Citadels is sort of a drafting game. You're going to have 1 to 9 characters. You can see the difference in these characters from left to right. And everyone's going to pick a character one at a time, and then you're going to activate those characters from 1 to 9 and trigger their abilities. And so the characters that go later are generally stronger, but the characters that go earlier can kind of mess you up if they know that that character was picked. Or they can swap your hand, and so the things you were going to build, you no longer have in your hand to build. It's a really great balance of a game, and you're just trying to build these different buildings, all of which have a different ability once you put them into your city. Just an exceptional game, and it was like 30 bucks Canadian, and then they came out with a more accessible, easier version which has less cards or something, which is fine because I only use that base set anyway. Really, again, the base set is all you need for a lot of these games. And then I saw it for like 15 bucks or something Canadian. And for that price, I'm offended at myself that I haven't picked it up yet. Now, but what I'm more offended at is that these maniacs in the Discord who are voting almost made it so that neither of them won. There were 12 votes to burn both of these games. They said, you know what? They're going to burn anyway. We might as well burn them both now. And I am enormously offended. I think both of these games can stand the test of time. Personally, I would vote more for Avalon, so of course more people voted for Citadels, and Citadels just beats the Burn It All movement by a 13 to 12 to 10 vote. Yeah, and it's only because I vote for the games and not for the Burn It All movement. The Burn It All movement has to exceed my initial little votes that I put out if they really want to fuel the flames of chaos. I'm so mad at everyone who voted to Burn It All, because both of these games are amazing, and don't listen to those friggin' naysayers, but just embrace them. Anyway, it is Citadels that does move forward in a 13 to 12 to 10 vote. My beautiful Avalon is destroyed. But maybe it's just a big box. Maybe it's the big box that'll be destroyed. Maybe Resistance Avalon will stay. I don't know. I don't relate to the enormously unknowable gods of the cosmos that force all of these games to spontaneously combust. I am merely the mouthpiece for them. I am merely taken possession of to create these videos, and then I black out and I emerge from my fugue state afterwards. And sometimes it happens twice if the gods in their unknowable power forget to unmute. I think I just bumped it by accident. I don't think it was a mute unmute, because I don't really use that for this one. Doesn't matter. Citadels moves on. We're moving along to Scrabble versus Bananagrams. Scrabble, which took place in 1948. This is its 75th anniversary of Scrabble, the area control word game. And yes, it is an area control word game. Those who play Scrabble well know that the words don't matter. What matters is knowing all of the 2-letter words and then strategically placing them in a way that well, makes it so that your opponent can't put 3-letter words down and create new words. I love treating Scrabble like it is an area control game because, ugh, like, look at this. Look at this horrid. Okay, board game geeks, maybe you should learn how to play the game a little bit better. You put your E on a triple letter score. Like, what is going on here? You're setting someone up for this double word score where you could just put an X right here, and then you could put an I here because key and chi are also double words. See, this is what I mean. Like, this is a horrible setup if you're playing Scrabble correctly. You want to monopolize these different double letters, etc. in an exciting way. Or you can forget the board entirely and go with Bananagrams, which is its competitor. I don't know if I said that. Came out in 2006. I remember playing this probably shortly after it came out. Bananagrams is friggin' great. It's speed Scrabble. You just have a whole bunch of tiles. You make your own little crossword, and then you say peel, and you pull letters in and make everybody else flounder because they're getting more and more letters. It's a fast-paced, awesome, like, brain-scratching game that I think both of these games are great. But the Flames don't. The Flames do not. Because looking at this, there are 16 votes for the Flames, 13 for Scrabble, on the day of its daughter's 75th anniversary. You burn Scrabble to the ground. And then only 6 for Bananagrams. What is wrong with you people? I think I should delete the whole Discord. This is such an offense and affront. I'm going to do that. Well, you'll get it in a second. Maybe you won't. Anyway, so both of these burn. Both of these burn for all eternity, which means a new competitor might emerge from the Phoenix. What game might emerge to stand the test of time? Well, you're going to have to wait to find out. Oh, this makes me mad. Scrabble and Bananagrams, actually, Scrabble can stand the test of time, people. It has. 1948, I think people would still be playing Scrabble, or do you think word games will have erased it from our history books? I don't know. But what I do know is both of these are burnt, and we're on to the next round. Articulate versus Our Ticket to Ride Europe. Our Ticket to Ride Europe. The second Ticket to Ride. Articulate is going to get blown out of the water here, let's be real, but let's talk about it a little bit. You try to get your partner to say as many words from a particular category written on the cards within a 30-second time limit, and then you move that many spaces, and then you land on spaces, and they do zany things. It's like any of those sort of older party games. 1992, a simple game to get the juices flowing. I think Taboo and other things like that probably would hold a little bit more water than Articulate, but you know, sometimes I like hearing about these things and bringing them up. It's against Ticket to Ride, which it will lose to. I'm not even going to create any drama or tension with this because we know. But Ticket to Ride Europe is in here because in the past Deathmatch, we know the cult of the old, well, Ticket to Ride was there, so Ticket to Ride Europe is, for me, its own distinct thing. It's something that I've gotten rid of because I prefer Ticket to Ride much more, because Ticket to Ride is a lot more cutthroat. That's a distinction for me. Ticket to Ride Europe adds in these two extra mechanics, the stations, where you can put something down and just share a route, which I don't think is that interesting, because I like being cut off, and I like knowing what someone else's tickets are and cutting them off, and seeing them cry, and seeing them burn. Oh, maybe that's why so many people like the burn it all movement. All right, I can see that now. Also, it has these tunnels on them where you might have to pay more than the amount listed. So this is 3 white trains down here, but you might have to pay 6 white trains if, when you flip over 3 cards trying to build the tunnel, 3 more white cards were showing up, or wild cards, right? There's a chance that you have to pay more, and I don't really like this as much either, because, well, it's annoying. It's annoying to lose your turn. I guess there's a push your luck aspect of it, and you have to wait in order to, for sure, lock it in, but I prefer it in terms of like this efficiency rather than this random, am I going to have to pay an extra one, or am I just going to get to lose my turn, which is unfortunate. It's not that fun to play. But Ticket to Ride doesn't matter because Ticket to Ride smokes Articulate in a 25-5 vote. Moving along, we have Cribbage versus Pandemic. Cribbage versus Pandemic, the Great Pandemic versus the Great Card Game Cribbage, which I think is 1630. Yep. First founded in 1630. Cribbage is a very simple card game that I played with my grandma a ton. And it's great. It's a light game, super easy to play. I'll play it over Christmas too. It's like a perfect cottage game. You just sit down, you deal out 6 cards, 2-player game. You can play 3 players, but don't. It's better with 2 players because the point of the game is to create the best set of 4 cards in your hand. If you're playing with 3 players, you each get 5 cards. If you're playing with 2 players, you get 6 cards. And so there's a little bit more interesting decisions to make. You're going to take 2 of those cards and you're going to put them in the crib, which is like an extra hand that you get to score that you and the person who you're playing against contribute to. But then the next round, you got to contribute to their crib, right? It goes back and forth. And so when it's your crib, great, you can put points in there. When it's somebody else's crib, you got to figure out how to not put points in there and still keep points in your hand. And still keep good cards for pegging, which is my second favorite type of pegging. You're going to play cards one after the other, and you're going to score points in the same way that you do in your hand, which is getting numbers that add up to 15, getting runs of 3 or more, or getting doubles or triples or quadruples. But as we all know, triples are best. Cribbage is a great game, but can it take out Pandemic? That's the question. I mean, Cribbage for me is my pick to win the whole thing. It is. Pandemic, 2008. It's the 15-year anniversary of Pandemic this year. That's surprising. Pandemic has created a lot of offshoots, the incredible Pandemic legacy, a whole bunch of stuff. But in terms of standing the test of time, I think we're done with the Pandemic, baby. I think we're in for the crib. I think we want to get nestled in a nice little crib and remind us of our childhood. At least that's what I want to do. So there was a big push with extra votes, and it is Cribbage that moves forward in a 17 to 15 vote. Goodbye, Pandemic. Nobody cares about you and using your 3 actions on a turn to cure 4 diseases by discarding 5 cards, okay? Nobody cares. In fact, I do. But actually, this deathmatch is making me realize that maybe I can call base Pandemic. Because if I'm going to play Pandemic, I'm going to play Pandemic Legacy. Maybe that's a candidate for culling. I need to make more room on my shelves. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, finally we did it. We have Survive Escape from Atlantis versus the Isle of Cats. Hey, it's probably good for you all that I did a dry run of this entire bracket, because now I can get through it a lot more quickly and less rambly until I make these sort of side comments that don't matter, or really don't matter to the outcome of the video, and just annoy people watching. So maybe I should stop continuing at that tangent. Uh-oh, we're in it now. Just kidding. Okay, let's go. Survive Escape from Atlantis, taking on the Isle of Cats. In Survive, you're trying to escape an island, getting the most important people to the corners of the island and letting the other ones get eaten by sea monsters by your opponents because they think it's your most important person. These people have little numbers on the bottom of their shoes, and some of them are 6, and some of them are 1. And you want to get your 6s all the way to the end without getting eaten, and you want to hope to get your 1s there. Speaking as a 1 myself, I would like to eventually make it to the island and not be eaten by a sea monster, but I know my place. I know my place in society. Or you can choose to save cats instead from an island. You're saving people from an island or cats from an island. It's probably going to be Isle of Cats who wins this because, well, people are awful. You're getting cats from an island, you're drafting them, and you're putting them on their ship, and all these cats like to sprawl out in different ways, and so you need to put them very significantly somewhere on your ship. Your ship also has walls, and that never matters for your cats. They just go right through them because they got weird spines. Pretty sure that's how it works. Why they then drew walls on the ship, I don't know. But I don't think they matter. Luckily, this Frank West, who's the designer, says, cats on a boat! That's kind of all you really need to know about the Isle of Cats. Get as many points from different objectives, scoring different families of cats as you can to win the day. Survive is a very fun game. Survive is a game that I've gotten rid of, that I didn't tell Renee I was going to get rid of, and I'm waiting to see if she notices, and I might get it back if she does. Or I might just run over to my friend Brandon's house and steal his copy and pretend it was here the whole time, because we're very close to each other, and we don't need 2 copies of the same game. It's a fun game. It's a really solid, light family game. Plays best at 4. Don't play it at 3, or if you do play it at 3, you'll want to shift things, because at 3, everybody can kind of get off the island, and it's more fun when people die in an eruption of molten lava. Okay, again, I see why people are doing the Burn It All movement. So Survive, unfortunately, falls to the Isle of Cats, but it was close. It was much closer than I expected it to be. But Isle of Cats moves forward in a 17 to 14 vote. Next round, we have Android Infiltration versus Azul. I mean, again, this is one where Azul's going to wipe the floor with it, right? I think. I hadn't really heard of Android Infiltration, but apparently it's very fun. It's a little sort of push your luck heist game. You want to get into the building as much as possible, as soon as possible, and take as much as you can before the alert level gets too high, and everybody in the building gets caught or, evaporated. Laser splodied. I think that's the correct term. That's the technical term. Laser splodied. That's what you want to do. It's sitting at number 22. 2204 on Board Game Geek. So not bad. 2204 on Board Game Geek. It's a pretty high score. It's actually higher than Azul's 73, you know, because it's a bigger number. It's just a physically bigger number. Azul, I think Azul is a fantastic game. Azul is my number one sort of game for parents who don't like board games. I imagine I'll be playing a lot of Azul this Christmas as well, because it's a solid game. You take one color from one of these little circles or one color from the middle and you put it on your board and you try to score the most points. It's in the World Series of Board Gaming as well for a reason. It's very popular and I like it a lot. So it was surprising to me to see how poorly it did in this competition. Azul is also my pick to win. I'm expecting to see Cribbage and Azul in the finals. That would have been my pick from the initial bracket if I had to make a prediction myself. But it also turns out that a lot of people hate Azul in the Discord. They were saying that they like Sagrada a little bit more and haven't had as much success with Azul as I personally have. So maybe it'll go far, maybe it won't. It almost lost to Android Infiltration in a 15-11 vote. It didn't, it skated by, but I don't have too high hopes for what's to come with Azul anymore. But I think maybe people will find the light, paint the light. No, that's a different cult. Anyway, we're moving on to the next round, which is Tapple versus Seven Wonders Duel. Seven Wonders Duel, you've probably heard of. It's ranked super high on Board Game Geek as well. It's ranked 18 on Board Game Geek, and for me, it's one of the most overrated ones. I think I might like base Seven Wonders better. You know what I think I might like? And I don't know how many people I'm gonna anger by saying this, but I do kind of stand by this. I think I like the 2-player variant of Seven Wonders better than I like Seven Wonders Duel. And maybe I made a whole bunch of people horribly mad, but I like manipulating that other third party. This one's fun too. I just don't really like a tug of war mechanic, and that's one of the ways to win. Here you can access any of the cards that are exposed. Kind of like me walking down the street, which is why I got arrested that one time. Anything that's exposed, you can you can pick up and put into your tableau. If you're getting science symbols, you also get a little science token. If you get all of those science tokens, you immediately win the game. If you're getting military, you get to push yourself along a track, a tug-of-war track. There's a military track, you just go back and forth. And if you push all the way to the other opponent's side, you win the game. Or you win the game through points, which is most often how it'll happen, because there's not always going to be that blowout. I do like variable win conditions. The Seven Wonders Duel could be on the chopping block for me. However, it's against Tapple, which, I mean, this does look fun. You're going to get a category, and you're going to then have to say a word that starts with one of these letters, all the way to W. Don't worry, X is out. And then somebody else will have to say a word that starts with a different letter. You keep pushing them down, and if you say a word in a category that currently flicked up, you lose, and the other people get the point, right? Or last person standing wins. Actually seems kind of fun. It seems like a better word game than Articulate for me, but still I don't think it's going to have the stones to compete with Seven Wonders Duel. But it did make a really good push, and I think a lot of that is probably not because Tapple's going to stand the test of time. Let's be real. It's not gonna. 100 years from now, you think people are sitting around playing Tapple? No. But do you think people are playing Seven Wonders Duel either? No. So maybe it's a vote against Seven Wonders Duel, kind of like the votes were against Azul, but it's still Seven Wonders Duel ends up moving forward in a 15-13 vote. Moving along to Chess versus Village. Chess is the oldest in the bracket, coming in at 1475. Take that, Cribbage, you stupid little baby game for babies. You weren't invented 200 years later. Chess had to be an inclusion. It wasn't nominated by anybody over on Patreon. All of my patrons get to nominate whatever games go into the bracket, and then I try to curate a bracket based upon if people nominate more than one thing, and based upon what hasn't been in brackets and what might be more interesting and to talk about, so that we're not talking about the same thing over and over. Chess is still sitting at 438 on Board Game Geek, which is really impressive, because I know a lot of modern board gamers just kind of like poo-poo chess, you know? They're like, oh, it's chess. Oh, I want to play a different game instead of this abstract game. I have found, ever since like becoming really entrenched in board gaming, I've gotten better at chess just through the osmosis of playing other area control games, because it's essentially an area control game, right? It's a tactical battles, it's a tactical skirmish game where you're trying to take out the king. But I found I look at the board differently because I'm used to seeing patterns of movement through playing other area control games. And I think that's kind of cool. It's up against Village, which gives new meaning to standing the test of time, since your players are going to be dying every turn. They're going to be dying, not every turn, but most turns, they're going to be dying. And in fact, you want them to die. You want to put them in this book of records, because there's only a certain number of spots for all the people to go in, and you want them to die and be written in the annals of history and not be buried in this unmarked grave over here. It's a very bleak game. It's a worker placement game where you can see these like big circles over here, the blue, the green, purple, all those are going to have cubes in them, and in order to put your worker in a spot in that area, you have to take a cube out. And so for a lot of these, it costs you time to put your worker in there, and then when they're in there, it also costs you time for them to do things. So once they're in that location, they've trained, right? They've learned how to make a cart. They learned how to breed a cow. They've learned how to lord over the village government and make everybody else do the hard labor. They've learned these things. And so it always costs you time. And the thing about time is, if I can get a player board up right here, every time you take time, you move around this board, this circle on the board. And when you cross this bridge, well, that's the bridge of death. That's the bridge of death for your family, and you must kill one of your family members. And so you're trying to get more and more family members and then strategically have them die so that your history is remembered forever in the village. It's a fun game. It's a game that I still have on my shelf. It's a game that Renee really likes a lot. And it's a game that, if you were interested in Apiary by Stonemaier Games, has a very similar feeling to that. Because in Apiary, you have these little bees that are getting stronger and stronger over the course of the game, but then when they hit 4, they have to go hibernate, because they don't die, they just hibernate. They're clearly dead. It's just Village. Has that sort of flow to it as well. It will be hard to beat chess, I feel. I feel like chess is sort of one of those games that kind of auto gets pushed towards standing the test of time. I also could see chess being in the finals as well, because you gotta honor it, right? Like, you gotta give it up for chess. It has been played for 700 years, almost 600 years. No, it's still not 600 years. 548 years. It has been played for 548 years, presumably, and maybe it'll be around in 100 more. But I also think chess is out of fashion in that sort of board gaming community, because it almost feels like a lifestyle game, right? It feels, in order to be good at it, because people are either really, really good, medium, or just horrible. And so in order to be good at it, you've got to play it a lot, right? There's a lot of study. It's kind of solvable in a way, because everything is deterministic. There's always a response to someone's move, and then it's very similar to Scrabble, honestly, in terms of, okay, you've done that thing, so I'm going to access my memory of every single permutation of chess moves that you could be doing, and then I'll respond accordingly into what I think is the best move that you're doing, right? Like, that's why there's these standard openings and responses to openings, because it has been sort of solved. And so maybe that's why Village does move forward and chess is out in the first round. What is this nonsense? Village is fun, but it's not going to stand the test of time as much as chess. In fact, it fails the test of time consistently, because it's constantly using time and murdering its people. But maybe that's why it helped push it ahead. Village moves forward in a 15-12 vote. Moving along to El Grande versus Scattergories. El Grande is still 92 on Board Game Geek, came in at 1995. It's one of these pioneers of the board gaming hobby, designed by Wolfgang Kramer and Richard Ulrich. Oh, Kramer. Wow. Wolfgang Kramer did Azul as well. Kramer and Kiesling did Azul, didn't they? Oh, no, it was just Kiesling. It was just Kiesling who did Azul, and then they've teamed up and have done a bunch of stuff since. But it's area control. In each of the 9 rounds, you select one of your 13 power cards to determine turn order, as well as the number of caballeros you get to move from the provinces into your court, the general supply into your personal supply, and then you are going to put these cubes on a map and fight for domination. It is the basest of basics, and it's very surprising they haven't come out with El Grande Super Deluxe Mini Edition, where all your minis are personalized sculpts of famous board game designers. But that's probably coming. It's probably coming on Kickstarter. Do a Kickstarter near you or a game found near you in 2024. Yeah, it's the grand poppy of area control. And then I got asked when I said that before, I said it's like the grandfather of deck building. And then someone said, okay, who's the father? And I did not have a good response. I think the father ran out because they were so intimidated by the grand poppy. And then all the children, you know, they had to make their own way in the world. That's my official response. But it's up against Scattergories. And Scattergories is a good party game, right? List as many words as you can that begin with a certain letter before time runs out. It feels very much like Articulate. But this is sort of mixed with just one. You don't want to cancel out each other's words or what you're writing down. And you can go for double points. Apparently you can go for double points, as we were talking about in the Discord, because some people wrote down famous actor or famous man Nick Nolte, and someone wrote down Nick Nolte for a thing with nuts. Who the dang hell is Nick Nolte? We'll never know. And so this was a close vote. This was a very close vote. People like their party games, and people hate L's. And Grandes. They hate the entire Grande family. Elle, Frankie, Ariana, they hate them all. Because it came down to a 15-15 tie. And there were some extra votes for one of these games, and that game is not part of the Grande family. Unfortunately, El Grande, which actually this is the first time I've legitimately looked into any of the mechanics behind it, right? That a turn consists of selecting one of 5 action cards, which allows variations to the rule, additional scoring opportunities, how many things you can manipulate around. It seems legitimately great, but that doesn't matter because, you know, it seems better. Scattergories. Scattergories is going to stand that test of time more than El Grande. Yes, this is the official stance of Room and Board, and you for watching it. I'm sorry, we're in this together now. Scattergories moves on to the next round. Next up, we have Terraforming Mars versus Space Hulk Death Angel, the card game. Sitting at 745 on the I've never heard of this list, and Terraforming Mars sitting at 6. Oh, 6? That's pathetic, Terraforming Mars. Do better. You know Terraforming Mars. If Terraforming Mars would have been ineligible for the Cult of the Old Deathmatch, which is why some of the differences between that and this one, I mean, again, we kind of know Terraforming Mars is going to win this one, right? Once all 3 terraforming criteria have been met, congratulations, you win in this engine building game. But let's talk a little bit about Space Hulk Death Angel, the card game, which is a cooperative game where players attempt to clean out an infestation of hostile aliens from a derelict spaceship set in the Warhammer 40k universe. Players take on the roles of Space Marines pitted against hordes of gene stealers. I know, Abercrombie and Fitch have been dealing with them for ages, and enough is enough. We need a team of Marines at every Old Navy and Blue Notes in the country to stop those horrid gene stealers. Stupid. But it's a very simple premise. You get a team of 2 Space Marines, and on your turn, you can play a card that will help you support, move, or attack, and then you can't play that same card the next time around, right? You're going to have to work together to face off the hordes of gene stealers like was that my Russian? Is that my Russian pronunciation? I think that was my Michael Scott choking on a tiramisu impersonation. God damn it, oh, I choked on a tiramisu. Apparently, this was only printed ever in Russian. No, there's some English. As you move through this sort of base and dealing with them, I like the idea that it comes in such a small box, too. But unfortunately, it's up against Terraforming Mars, right? And if there's one modern board game that feels like it could stand the test of time and maybe be played in Mars in 100 years, well, it would be Terraforming Mars. Especially because Space Hulk Death Angel is a casualty of Fantasy Flight Games and the Games Workshop sort of split, and probably will never be made again due to licensing and rights issues. But yeah, add a little dice roll in there to keep the randomness fresh. There was a push for it in the Discord, but unfortunately for Space Hulk, it is Terraforming Mars that does just eke out a win in a 20-18 vote. And next round, we've reached the end of the bracket. We're going to really ramp up from here on out. Now, we'll get to Lords of Waterdeep in a minute, but I'd like to take this opportunity to talk to you about our Lord and Savior Bounce Off. Praise be. Under his eye. Because really, what game stands the test of time more than Bounce Off? I know that it's been written as being originated in 2013, and that is false. That is completely fake. Since the dawn of time, Bounce Off was there. A little known fact is Bounce Off first originated in the Jurassic era, where Bounce Off would, T-Rexes would play Bounce Off. by throwing Stegosaurus into various volcanoes. It's true. It was one. They weren't making many patterns there, but come on, they got teeny little arms. Okay, the fact that they could throw a Stegosaurus with their arms and definitely not their jaws, because they made a rule. Because the jaws were too easy. They made a rule that was how to strengthen their arms. That's where the first written record of Bounce Off can be found, really. You can find it in many journals, because the Ankylosauruses were known as really good scribes because of all their spikes. So they were the scorekeepers. And so their history was kind of passed down from generation to generation. But in fact, a little known fact is, and this is a fact, that actually wasn't the first. That was the first recorded instance of Bounce Off. But there is a verbal tale of Bounce Off being passed down. Because how do you think the Big Bang happened, huh? How do you think amoebas were formed? By the Big Bang slamming atoms together. The universe was created through one big giant game of Bounce Off, all right? That is the story that I have believed and have been brought up in. Forget Genesis, forget the Big Bang. No, it's a combo of the two where the gods were playing Bounce Off and with molecules, and they just happened to create life, all right? And they created life for one purpose, to praise Bounce Off until the end of time, where we will all disintegrate into dust and have our particles bounce their way across the galaxy. From Bounce Off we were born, and into Bounce Off we will die. There isn't a world in which Bounce Off hasn't existed, and I am getting a message from the representatives that say, God damn, they're too old for this shit. It's true, Bounce Off also played Murdoch in Lethal Weapon. And so Bounce Off is saying, listen, you pathetic little fools can have your squabbles amongst yourselves. I'm out. And so what can take on Lords of Waterdeep, who also, well, I guess it could have been in our Call to the Old Deathmatch. It might have been. It might have been a repeat, but it got recommended a bunch, and it's a really good game, so that's why I wanted to put it in. But it's facing off now against Alhambra. Alhambra wanted to take up the mantle and tried to fill in Bounce Off's shoes. Okay, yeah, like you can do that, you backgammon wannabe. I think somebody said if you like backgammon, you should do Alhambra, although reading it now, I don't see the comparisons whatsoever, so I probably misinterpreted that. You're trying to acquire buildings to be placed within your Alhambra complex, and the money in Alhambra comes from 4 different currencies and is available in the open market. The 54 buildings or 6 types become available for purchase in the building market 4 at a time. I'm already checked out. I'm just thinking about Bounce Off. Yeah, I don't know why somebody told me this was like backgammon. But I definitely remember someone saying that. What am I getting confused with? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. It's an efficiency thing about purchasing, taking money or using that money to purchase buildings. The game rewards efficiency, as when a player purchases a building from the market for the exact amount of money, the player may take another turn. Wow. So you'll just get to play your whole game, and nobody else will ever get a turn. That sounds like a good one. Lords of Waterdeep is a fantastic game. I could also see this one going pretty far. I could see a lot of these going pretty far, which is a testament to how great board games are, really. Lords of Waterdeep is the granddaddy of worker placement. Who is the father? I don't know. The theme doesn't matter, and the theme is actually off-putting to a lot of people because it's very fantasy-forward. This is a game that my girlfriend did not think that she would enjoy because of the box. She said, that looks dumb. And now it's, one of her favorite games. It's such a great, great introduction to worker placement. You put your person out, you get a bunch of cubes, you use those cubes to pay for buildings. I meant to say quests, but I'm always thinking about buildings in this game because I am always the builder. There's a special character that you can be. All the characters are the same except for the builder. All the characters say, hey, if you get this or this type of card, you get extra points. And the builder's like, hey, if you build buildings, you get more extra points. And you just randomly pull one of these cards, but 50% of the time, over 50% of the time, I am the builder in this game. And maybe that's why I like it so much, because I just think that's the incredible odds that have happened. The amount of times I've been the builder is just bananas to me. But it's a great game. Really good game, really fun flow to it. I like it at 2 because you get more workers to place. At 5, you have less workers because the spots don't change. There's no scaling up of the spots. There's no making more spaces. You just have less workers to place. And so the scores then fluctuate hugely because you can do a lot more in 2-player. And I think the love for Lords of Waterdeep is pretty apparent. It's still in the top 100 games of Board Game Geek. And that's, I think, pretty exceptional for something whose weight is really low. Comparatively to everything else in the top 100, I think Lords of Waterdeep is an exceptional game and deserves to move forward in a 20-9 vote. So we've made it. We've made it to the round of 16. Here's what the bracket looks like now. Are your favorites still in it? I don't know, but we're going to find out. We're going to really speed through things now in the ultimate board gaming deathmatch. Which one of these games will stand the test of time? Let's get into it. Starting off with a new game. I'm trying to find the picture even that I was using in the Discord. I don't think I can. So we're just going to go with monikers right here. But it's the game Celebrity. You don't need to purchase monikers in order to play this game. And in fact, I prefer it not as playing monikers, but just play with your own friends in your own group, and you all have a shared experience, and so you'll be able to create in-jokes that way. But we'll use monikers as the sort of picture because I just played that recently, and it was, it was fun. But I prefer Celebrity better. So Celebrity, you write down, everybody gets 5 scraps of paper, you write down a celebrity, a person. In monikers, it's not always people, and so you have to kind of struggle a little bit to get these odd phrases, these funny cards, so to speak. But in Celebrity, you just write down a person. My personal pick for Celebrity that I always write down, well, it oscillates. Sometimes you write Garfield, it can be fictional. Sometimes you can write L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, because I just think it's he's a very, very funny, he's a wild individual. Oh man. Go listen to the Dead Authors podcast, The Two Things with Andy Daly playing L. Ron Hubbard. It's so good. That's forever etched in my memory because it is so funny because he's such a wild person. Anyway, you write down these clues. The first round, you're pulling things from a hat. You're saying, okay, you're trying to get people to guess these names. You can say anything you want to qualify them. The second round, you have to have one word. The third round, you can do charades. The fourth round, if you want to throw in a fourth round, you can do it under a sheet. It's the dumbest thing ever. You can do it under a sheet. It's a really solid party game, and it's up against Dark Moon, Battlestar Galactica Express. Celebrity is a fantastic game, and there was a sort of conversation in terms of, should we allow public domain games into this round? We want to spend money on things. We want to make sure that the things that we spent money on last 100 years, and not this ordinary game that you don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on Kickstarter in order to have a good time. And I think that's bogus. I think it's great. I think it's really cool that there can be a public domain game. I mean, Tic-Tac-Toe's not going to make it far in this bracket because that's garbage. But Celebrity is legitimately a great party game, a fantastic party game that can rival any of the party games out there. I think Celebrity can rival Codenames significantly. That's why Monikers has done so well. Yeah, Monikers, you can see, is number 5 in party games. Overall, 292, because people really enjoy it, and it is founded on Celebrity. Monikers is just people, the designers, just took Celebrity and made it, something that people could purchase because people want to spend money. But it is Celebrity that does move forward in a 15-15 tie on the backs of some extra votes. I'm thrilled. Sorry, Dark Moon. I think Dark Moon's fine, but it's not going to stand the test of time like Celebrity will. For sure. No way. You're out of here. Moving along to Ada's Library versus Codenames. I mean, I think we can be pretty confident in saying that Codenames is going to win this one, but it was a very close vote. And now that I'm looking back at the results, it's not so clear. It was 16-15 for one of these games. Ada's Library was getting a lot of love in terms of the abstract and the simple nature of it. But again, I think there's something inherent about these group games that are able to get played, like Codenames and like Celebrity, that they're able to stand the test of time because they appeal to more people, right? I think pulling out Ada's Library and getting somebody to sit down and play with you might be fun and might introduce people to the hobby, but I think Codenames has been so much more successful for me in terms of growing the hobby, and in 100 years, well, people might still think of Monopoly, so I don't know. I think it is Codenames. It is Codenames that moves forward in a 16-15 vote. Ada's Library, unfortunately, all copies are burnt for all eternity. Moving along, we have Citadels versus Fire, the board game. No, it's not Fire the board game. It is, in fact, one game is going to emerge from the flames right now. The oldest game in our bracket, negative 2200 BC. The oldest game that is standing the test of time right now. It is Go that's moving into the bracket, taking on Citadels. This is going to be hard for Citadels to win, I think, on the backs of it taking place in 2200 BC. What is going on here? Citadels, you get your fantastic character drafting. It's a great game. But in Go, you get to put a stone on a board. So, what did that tell you? And you're trying to surround your opponent's stones. Completely surround. So you see this big grouping right here. However, this one little black stone was able to stop the expansion and stop all of these stones from getting wiped out. If you surround your opponent's stones completely, they're cleared off the board. Can't play anymore. And often Go players will be like, hey, we can see the end of this game because we're so good at this game. You win after like 2 stones are placed. a slight exaggeration. And so while I would want, oh my god, look at this nonsense. I can't even make heads or tails of this. What's defined as being surrounded as what? I don't know. I'm not a Go expert, but I do know that Go moves forward and destroys Citadels in a pretty dominant 21-8 vote, and I gotta give it to it. I have to give it to it. People are still playing this game. Maybe? Yeah, people are still playing this game because Shut Up and Sit Down did a video upon it once upon a time. That's the reason why. We're moving along to Ticket to Ride Europe versus Cribbage. For me, Cribbage takes this handily. Ticket to Ride Europe is the subpar version of Ticket to Ride. And so I am absolutely sure that Cribbage is going to win here, and it is Ticket to Ride that moves forward in a 19-12 vote. Cribbage is great. Cribbage is relaxing. Ticket to Ride Europe should burn just based upon that it is not Ticket to Ride. Although it does have the bigger cards, so you know what? Okay, you get a pass Ticket to Ride. The same size cards was fighting against the same size cards against Cribbage, but it is Ticket to Ride, and I mean, Ticket to Ride does have legs. I think Cribbage stands the test of time a little bit more because you'll see it in cottages and being played, but I think Ticket to Ride also has a chance of achieving that status, right? Because it is so worldwide popular. So, okay, I'm a bit salty because I wanted Cribbage to win the whole thing, but it is Ticket to Ride that moves forward in a 19-12 vote. We've made it to the other side of the bracket. You see how quickly it goes now. And we have our final bye of the tournament in order to make the numbers make sense for the amount of days in a month. Some of the games get a bye, and we have Santorini taking up our last bye, Santorini versus the Isle of Cats. Santorini is another abstract game, holding it down for the abstracts, where you have this grid, and on your turn you move your player, and then you build a section of a tower. And you want to get your player to the top of a tower right here. Gray has just won the game because they've landed on this top of the tower before a little dome has covered it. Gray has just won the game. And it seems simple, but every game you get a unique player power. And I think that's where this game really shines. I really like this game, Santorini's. Not as much as these guys. They're stoked about it. Yes! They're really excited to start building, and so are they. They're ready to wield their hammers. They seem a little less excited. Like, these people are shouting for joy, right? And they're just, you know, they're looking on. They're like, why do we have to be so loud? It doesn't have to be so loud. And then this is just, you know, objectifying. Oh yeah, the gray one's smiling. Yeah, we can see the smile there. I'm not saying that they should smile more. That's not what I'm saying. Don't put words in my mouth. But yeah, Santorini is an awesome game. It got a big reprint. Honestly, I think the reprint's probably too expensive for what it is. I really liked it at its other price of like $30 to $40, and I think the new one is like $60, but I'm still excited to get that and have that coming to me. I really did not like the solo mode that they added in there. I think it was a poor idea and poorly implemented and not challenging at all. But then again, I don't like solo games, so that's just me. However, the base game of Santorini is fantastic, right? It's so good. You can see all the god powers there. I'm rooting for Santorini to take out the Isle of Cats, even though I've heard really good things. I still haven't played Isle of Cats, but I like polyomino games. That's what these are, Tetris pieces. And I think the concept of Isle of Cats is really cool. This one sort of came down to now we're really thinking about the concept of staying power. The Isle of Cats was 2019, and Santorini did first come out, I think, 2004? Oh, 2016. This is 2016 version re-implemented, but 2004 is the original version, although it is the re-implementation with the powers that I think gives it the staying power. And so it was tough, back and forth, but eventually it's Santorini that moves forward in a 17-11 vote. Moving along to Azul versus Seven Wonders Duel. This is, I don't know how this one's going to go because of all the hate that Azul was receiving, but I think Azul should win this handily. And at many points, it was a dead tie. They were tied. It was deadlocked. I had to extend the voting for a long time. But eventually, Azul managed to swing some votes over to its side from Seven Wonders Duel, which I want to play it again. I haven't played this in a while, and I could get it to the table. I'd much rather play Santorini than Seven Wonders, so At least it's going to be Azul that's facing off against Santorini in the next round in a 20-16 vote, and Seven Wonders Duel is exterminated. And I think that's correct. I think it's correct. Next up, we have Village versus Scattergories. Right. I was expecting this matchup to be Chess versus El Grande, personally, but it ended up being Village versus Scattergories, and that's what you can expect in the Room and Board Deathmatch. And if you're not happy about the votes, well, you should have gone on Discord and voted. Join the Room and Board Patreon if you want exclusive access. You know, just wait until I do these recaps. That's also fine. Village versus Scattergories, though, is the matchup that we are facing off against. I guarantee you, if you just join Room and Board, like, for the death matches and not just to support the channel because you like the sort of content that I put out, you're gonna be disappointed because it's all nonsense. I just want to put that disclaimer out there, as evident by this matchup that is not Chess versus El Grande. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see Village move forward, and you know what? I think Scattergories deserves to make a little bit of a run here. I think Scattergories, again, is in that party game genre, and I think ability for party games to potentially stand the test of time is a bit stronger than like a generic Euro. Even though I think Village is fun, I think Scattergories might have a little bit more staying power, but also it could be that Scattergories has been replaced now by so many other party games and like better party games on the other side of the map, like Celebrity and Codenames, and may not live for that long. So I'm torn. I'm torn between these two about which one I would vote for. And so it was a really close vote between these two. It ended up being 15-13 for the winner. And I don't know. I don't know what I would have voted for. I think I probably would have voted for Village just because Scattergories, I think Scattergories won't be around in 100 years, and Village potentially has that chance if it were to get latched onto for some reason. I don't know though. Now I'm thinking I might vote for Scattergories, but it doesn't matter. I don't vote. I just run the thing. And it's Village that moves forward in a 15-13 vote, again standing the test of time while murdering its meeples and putting them into unmarked graves. And finally, the last matchup in this round of 16 with Terraforming Mars versus Lords of Waterdeep. This is a tough one, but I'm pulling for Lords of Waterdeep here. Terraforming Mars has done so well, but I just think Lords of Waterdeep has that staying power, again, with the lower complexity. I think maybe that's it. I think about the lower complexity games, and I think about how you need some ease to get it to the table in order to keep it staying around. But Terraforming Mars is number 6 on Board Game Geek, which Lords of Waterdeep might have been at some point in time. I'm sure it was up there. I don't know if you can check how high it ever got. If you can see a ranking history, I'll have to look that up. Every month, someone will ask for a feature where we can see the rankings through time. No such thing exists anymore, and numbers for the early years will never be recovered. Therefore, a geek list. But this was made in 2011, and Lords of Waterdeep came out 2012. So that's not going to help. Oh, okay. Overall rank, strategy rank, game ranking, stats. So we can go to stats, go into stats, and we're clicking the graph next to overall rank to see the historical rank, and we see nothing. All. Let's go to all. Rank 26. The highest it ever got was 26 back in 2014. That's the highest Lords of Waterdeep ever got. And Terraforming Mars, I mean, I think its highest was 4, right? Oh, it got to 3. It was 3 back in 2019. At one point it was 3, and then it was 4, and then it's been dropping ever since. Oh, just dropping, just plummeting. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool thing. And so this one came down to a really close vote. It was 16-17, Terraforming Mars 16, Lords of Waterdeep 17, with 2 Die of Chaos to be rolled. The undecided couldn't make up their minds, and so magically for Terraforming Mars, it gets both of those random votes and ends up moving forward in a very close 18-17 vote. I really wanted Lords of Waterdeep to move forward. In fact, they had moved forward in my mind, and checking back makes me sad now. But it is Terraforming Mars, which, you know, it's number 6 on Board Game Geek. Maybe it's earned a spot. I don't know. It's standing the test of time, and it moves forward into the next round. Okay, let's keep it going. We have the showdown of the party games with Celebrity versus Codenames. Again, I'm pushing for Celebrity to win here. I would love to see Celebrity win here. And that's just because I am a celebrity, and I would feel seen by it. It's a tough sell, though. I think Codenames has had such incredible reach that Celebrity's more of like a word of mouth thing, right? You don't hear people talking about monikers even. You hear people talking about Codenames. Codenames sitting at 4 on party over monikers 5. Monikers being the sort of categorized representation of Celebrity. And I think Codenames Wide Reach also has a more lasting. So I agree with the votes here. I agree that Codenames does move forward in a 19-10 vote. Moves into the semifinals. Moves into the semifinals. This is our quarterfinal round. Next up, we have Go versus Ticket to Ride Europe. This one, I don't know how it's going to go because Go. We want to honor the games that have been around for so long. And Go is the only sort of abstract that got traction and not chess, right? I feel Go and chess kind of go hand in hand. There was a little bump of Ticket to Ride for the Ticket to Ride Legacy that people are enjoying right now, so I think that also helped it, keeping it fresh in people's minds. But I was expecting Go to move forward, and so naturally it's Ticket to Ride that ends up moving forward. Go, which emerged from the ashes, it got one round in it, and then it burnt. It flared out very quickly. It's Ticket to Ride Europe that moves forward in 18-11 vote. Sorry, Go. You gone. More like gone. Okay, that one I'll take. Moving along, we've got Santorini versus Azul. Two abstracts as well. I know we said we didn't really have abstracts, but we do. We have two of them. So maybe this can make up for Go. I would go with Azul here, personally. Between Santorini and Azul, I think Azul is more likely to stand the test of time. It is ranked higher overall. It is ranked higher on the abstract. Ranked number 2 on abstract. What's number 1? Cascadia is number 1. That makes sense. I don't know why I gave Patchwork a 6.9. I think it's more like a 6. These decimals are stupid. Maybe I wanted to just, like, if I was adhering to the Board Game Geek rating, I was like, it's just not fun. I think it's a 6 for me. Let's change this right now. None of these decimals. Anyway, but we're talking about Azul. Azul just has staying power over Santorini. I don't know what to tell you. Santorini is fun, and Santorini I'm really, really excited to have in my collection, but Azul just works, and Azul works with 2 to 4 players, and Santorini does not work with 2 to 4 players. It's not a 2 to 4 player game. It's not a 2 to 3 player game. It's a 2-player game. So because of that, my vote would personally be for Azul. However, it's not my votes that count. It's the people who hate Azul and love Santorini. It's Santorini that moves forward in a 14-10 vote. Azul is extinguished from the competition, and Santorini is going to hold it down for the abstracts moving forward. I mean, Santorini's great. Like, I'm actively excited to get the copy to arrive and to play it and to have fun with it. So I'm not that mad because I think I prefer Santorini. Like, Santorini would be higher on my personal rankings than Azul. But I just think Azul has more staying power, personally. But speaking of Trials of Time, Village is inexplicably still in this, and it's taking on Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars, who took down Lords of Waterdeep. I think if it was Lords of Waterdeep versus Village, I think Lords of Waterdeep would win hands down. I think if it's Village versus Terraforming Mars, I think there's enough people who voted against Terraforming Mars and who want to see revenge for Lords of Waterdeep that Village could again make another run into the next round. So I don't know. I mean, Village, this is weird because like Village is one of those games where I don't know if I actually like it, but when I play it, I like it, and I know Renee likes it so much more than I like it. And so that's the reason why it stayed around in the collection, because we don't really pull it out on the shelf. But talking about it, and I think it's also in part with my good experience with Apiary that I just had. I just played Apiary for the first time recently. And that's making me think really fondly about Village. I want to get it back to the table again. Terraforming Mars, schmoring schmars. Village is the one that I would be more interested to play right now. And that's wild to me. And so we have 4 random votes. Currently, Village is ahead by a 20-18 vote. Lots of people threw down some extra votes for Village. This is the last time you can use extra votes in the competition as we go into the semifinals. No extra votes can be used, so a lot of people wait and then use them on the last bulk extra vote, on the last vote to try to push their favorites forward or influence the semifinals. And so Village is winning 20-18, but we do have 4 Dice of Chaos, which supported Terraforming Mars's win in the last round. And honestly, I want to see Terraforming Mars go down because it took out Lords of Waterdeep. I'll be honest. Terraforming Mars shouldn't even be here. She doesn't even go here, okay? Village, I'm rooting for Village now. I'm feeling the tides have turned, even though I think it's like just like a good game. It's like I don't know, it's like an 8 out of 10. It's like a solid seal of approval. I don't know if it's seal of distinction. I think it's seal of approval, though. It's fun. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It stands the test of time. You know what it does? And the Die of Chaos agree with me. The final vote, it falls all 4 in favor of Village, just extinguishing Terraforming Mars from existence. That's right. The number 6 game is no more. We got Village on the docket, baby. This is our finals. Village moves forward in a 24-18 vote, and so we have our final 4. We got Codenames, we got Ticket to Ride Europe, we got Santorini, and we've got Village. These are the final 4 games. Out of all the games that were here, these are the 4 that are most likely to stand the test of time, and only one of them is going to win. Who could have seen this coming? I certainly did not. I thought it was going to be Cribbage, I thought it was going to be Azul, I thought it was going to be Lords of Waterdeep, and I thought it was going to be Celebrity. I was pulling for Celebrity, so I was completely wrong on all 4 counts, but here we are. This is where we're at. It's Codenames versus Ticket to Ride, the first match in the semifinals. Do we take on the party game, the top secret word game with spies swimming through the jungle? I don't know, I said swimming through the jungle. I'm thinking about Tim Riel, who runs Codenames Live over on Nerd and Correct's Twitch channel. They've been doing it for a while now. Very funny guy. I've been on that show a few times, and it's a very fun show. He does this whole like 10-minute explanation of what Codenames is, and he just talks about the movie True Lies. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. It's nothing like True Lies. It's just, well, it's just this. That's a bit interesting. I guess you could roll the dice and just shake them up and then always have a infinitely customizable setup from a repurposed big boggle. That's kind of cool. You need a screen to shelter it, but that's pretty cool. I mean, you don't really need it, because there are so many cards and they can be adjusted. You know, there's 4 options in each card, but hey, if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. People innovating with their code names, people keeping the Codenames dream alive versus Ticket to Ride Europe, which is just a solid Ticket to Ride. Like, Ticket to Ride is a very solid system, right? It's a good system, even if the tunnels are stupid and the stations are stupid, and this is the worst Ticket to Ride out there. And so the final vote was 19-13 for one of these games. Was it the party games that are going to stand the test of time, or is it Ticket to Ride, the stalwart gateway game that's going to move forward? Well, I choose the winner here is Ticket to Ride. I didn't choose it, but you know what I mean. All aboard the death train. Ticket to Ride Europe moves into the finals, and Codenames is extinguished in a 19-13 vote. Who will be its competitor? Is it going to be Santorini, or is it going to be Village? At this point, I want Village to win. You know, at this point, even though I like Santorini better, like I objectively like it better, I want Village to win. I love an underdog story, and Village is a good game. You know, it's a solid game. Published by Stronghold Games. I don't know if that's on my copy. I thought it was Eggertspiel. Maybe it's a little combo between the two. Santorini taking on Village, but Santorini could give it to the abstracts. You know, the chess fans out there, the Go fans out there, they could take it. I just think Village might win here because of the support it's been getting, but I also think it's been like getting votes against it. Now, Santorini could have people voting against it because people don't like abstracts, right? People don't like things that are talked about too much. Santorini is sitting at 251 on Board Game Geek, and Village also sitting at 208. Let's check this. I like this stats thing. Let's check the overall historical ranking. Village's max rank at one point in time, 62. Seems like it was 62, and it's been going downhill since there. 62, pretty good. Pretty good for 62. Let's see Santorini. Santorini shot up the charts in 2017, again with the re-implementation, getting to 65, 62, 61! 61! Oh, when was that? 61 was in 2017, June 12th, 2017. I swear, is that Village? When was Village's 62? Oh no, much earlier than that. December 30th, 2013. That would have been very funny. Santorini's overall ranking was higher, but now it is lower than Village. It would have been very funny for it to be one more, as Santorini is the one that moves forward in a 19-10 vote. Unfortunately, Village's historic run ends there. Enjoy your unmarked grave. Wow, Red really just was reenacting the movie Click up in here, you know? They just were slamming through it. take some time and smell the roses, village. That's the message, because at any moment could be your last. It's Santorini that moves forward into the finals, and finally, in our finals, we have Ticket to Ride Europe versus Santorini. One of these games will stand the test of time. One of these games will fade into obscurity. One of these games will burn every single copy in existence. Get your fire hoses ready, because it's gonna be a messy one. And the top comment, the first comment of this in the Discord is, this is a travesty of a result for this theme. Will these two stand the test of time? I don't know how they got there, but they did. That's how the voting system works. Will it be the abstracts, or will it be Ticket to Ride? You know what? We've been doing this stats thing, which I think is pretty fun, so let's do it again. Let's see how high. It's 151 overall. Let's see the overall ranking, the historical ranking. Unless it just said right there and I missed it that its highest rank was 31. I think I've been missing it. Let's go back to stats. Oh no, family rank. Okay. Ticket to Ride Europe premiered at rank 220. At rank 20. Maybe that's just back where the data only goes to 2006. It premiered at 21 to 20, and then it dropped all the way down. But so its max rank has been 20 to 151 as its range. Santorini's been 61 to 251 or whatever it is. I think between these two, if I had to guess which game would be played in 100 years' time, I would probably give it to Ticket to Ride. I think I like Santorini more, but I think that the mass appeal, again, the ease of getting it to the table, the expanded player count might help. And certainly Santorini's solo mode won't help it go up anymore. I feel like I'm taking many shots. It wasn't that bad, right? It wasn't horrible. It was just fine. And I was expecting a lot more because I love Santorini and I'm super passionate about it. But it was fine. If you like a solo mode, I'm sure it's going to be better too, because I played a production version. I say that because I like the Roxley team. And I think that they were sad when I said that it was a baby game for babies. Is what it kind of felt like. But it's a pretty production, you know, it's easy. Anyway, on that note, yeah, it's Ticket to Ride that wins. Ticket to Ride wins! Ticket to Ride wins. Sorry, Santorini. Maybe if your solo mode was better, you would have won. But it isn't out yet. It isn't out yet, so maybe that'll change it when it comes out. Santorini burns for all eternity. Ticket to Ride is our victor in a dominant 21-9 vote. Ticket to Ride will stand the test of time. It bashed through Articulate. It took out my personal pick to win, Cribbage, so we should have seen this coming. The only thing that could have stopped Cribbage was the inevitable victor. It took out 4,223 years of Go in one fell swoop. It said, nah, I don't need you. Slapped Codenames in its face and blew its cover and barged its way into the finals, where it just ran through the entire city of Santorini. The white buildings are crumbled into dust. No one's going to stand on top of that tower because Ticket to Ride Europe has reclaimed it for its own. It's like, hey, Santorini, get back in the EU. We'll help you deal with your financial problems, Greece, I hope. Congratulations goes to Ticket to Ride Europe. You are the champion of this matchup. And speaking of champions, well, right now over on the Discord, we are doing a champion of champions tournament. Every single first place and second place winner from the past year are currently battling it out to the death of all 11 death matches. You're not going to want to miss that recap whenever it comes out. I'm excited, plus a bunch of wild cards that have slipped their way in there. People are furious at the results, and we'll see if it's just going to be ISS Vanguard or if it's going to be something new. Who knows? But what we do know is Ticket to Ride Europe, congratulations again, goes out. You are the game that's going to stand the test of time officially in this room and board deathmatch. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but we're ending this video in high energy, baby. See you later.